Hi, thank you everyone for joining me today. I am speaking with the new leaders in Farm to ECE in celebration of the 10th anniversary of Farm to ECE. So I'm excited to hear your perspectives on how this movement has grown and where it's going, kind of your contributions to this wonderful movement. So to get started, can we all do some introductions? Love to hear your name, how your organization or department does Farm to ECE, what your role entails, and maybe kind of what your background is or how you got into this work. So we can start with Caroline. Kind of go around.
Sure. My name is Caroline Stover. I run the Farm to Early Care and Education Initiative in North Carolina. We are an initiative with CEFS, the Center for Environmental Farming Systems, which is a three-way partnership between the North Carolina Department of Agriculture and our two land grant universities, NC-A&T and NC State University. And our initiative really seeks to promote Farm to ECE and grow the movement in the state through systems level change. And so we connect early care and education system leaders on the ground and at the state level with local food systems leaders. And so we do that through statewide stakeholder engagement processes where we listen to folks on the ground who are really doing the work and spread their successes, help them spread the word about them, and make it easier for them to do more Farm to ECE. So that's kind of our approach to Farm to ECE in North Carolina. I've been doing this work since 2016, and before that, I was with Food Corps, a farm to school program for 4 years. And so I have just really enjoyed bringing the farm to table movement to younger and younger children as I go on. Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Oh, that's great. Brittany, would you like to go next?
Absolutely, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Brittany Martens, and I work for the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. I work for both the Child and Adult Care Food Program as well as the Early Childhood Obesity Prevention Unit. And we are really working to bring Farm to ECE as well with that systems thinking, but we have been working on this since 2016, which is when I got hired, and we started our first Team Nutrition Farm to ECE grant, which was a 3-year grant focusing on culinary training and gardening, as well as curriculum, and have since really dived into barriers and challenges and focused our programming and funding to try to overcome all of those and understand them through community-based programming. We're currently working on our Farm to ECE Coalition, which is 2 years in, and we have about 25 members and 18 organizations helping to align Farm to ECE across the state, bringing diverse voices to the table. We're really hoping to increase our membership, help represent populations we serve, as well as those historically underserved communities. Through the Association of State Public Health Nutritionists, we were a 2020 FIG grantee, which is allowing us to implement 9 community-based mini grants and contract to build a 3-year Colorado Farm to ECE roadmap. Additionally, this fall, we're going to be releasing our first curriculum that's Colorado specific and a Harvest of the Month program. But coming to Farm to ECE, I really joined from my background both as a chef, but also as a nutritionist. And so I love having that perspective of both fields and trying to connect with the cooks and think about their day in and day out and how to make this programming work for them.
Wande, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hey. So my name is Wande OConnor Meadows. I am with Little Ones Learning Center in Forest Park, Georgia. And our organization is actually part of a five group initiative with the W.K. Kellogg Foundation. So I'm part of it's Little Ones Learning Center, Quality Care for Children, Voices for Georgia's Children, Georgia Organics, and then Common Market was part of it with the first round of funding, but they're not with it for the second round of funding. So we were funded for the 2 years and then got refunded again. So it's all about increasing the quality of early childcare, farm to ECE and early childcare programs and communities, and supporting the state and bringing it to scale. So our program here at Little Ones is almost in a way, I hate using the word model demonstration site, but I guess you can call it a model demonstration site. So we do a lot of implementation programming here, because a lot of times you do see, or proof of concept, I guess. I do think it's important to make sure that, you know, the thoughts that people have in mind can actually work. So we've been doing this work for many, 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 many years, but it doesn't mean that we have all the answers. So we just bring it to light. And I'm really, really focused on making sure that the voices that are doing this work are elevated and lifted and people hear from it. So just because we have a lot of great policy people that have great, and policy is absolutely needed, but they also need to hear from the boots on the ground that are doing this work. I know a lot of people are focused on CRIS and you know, quality rated improvement systems and what it can do and this and the other, but we can't have the policy people and those that are the big people at the table that are doing all the talking without talking to the boots on the ground that are in charge of doing the implementation, and putting all of this extra added layers. And we say farm to ECE should not be a burden. That's what we say, but without the right structures in place and the right supports in place, it does become to be a burden for teachers and everybody else. So that's my, I don't want to say spill, but through Farm to ECE, through Farm to ECE, I've also launched a nonprofit, and the nonprofit is absolutely focused on Farm to ECE. It's called the Hand, Heart, and Soul Project. And so with that, we do two things. Number one, we provide children and families access to nutrient-dense foods. And number two, we develop holistic programming focused on health, wellness, education, and nutrition programs in other early childhood care centers, specifically in our area. So we're not focused on Atlanta or Atlanta Metro. We're really focused on the hyper local, on the area in my area. Like I got to figure out what's going on in my zip code before we can branch out to other areas.
Well, thank you. Thanks everyone for joining us. And it's just really great to hear so many different perspectives from the community level, the government level, organization, and just the variety of work that you're all doing. You know, you all kind of stand out for the impact that you've made in this field and the innovations that you're bringing that others can use as a model for their own work. So thank you again for the work that you're all doing. So Wande, you kind of mentioned you've done a lot of work through your nonprofit and through your early learning center and kind of serve as, like you said, like a model for other programs to kind of bring their work into the community. So what would you say what kind of growth have you seen in Farm to ECE since you started this work? Either in your center or just in the movement as a whole?
Yeah, so it's picked up with a lot of interest has picked up, but I don't know if it's because it's trendy. I don't know, but everyone wants a kale salad now. Like, I don't know why, but they want a kale salad. Or kale chips or something, but and that's not a bad thing. Everybody wants to grow a garden. Everybody wants that. So whatever works, let's make it work. Seeing a lot of people on this health tip, so that's not bad. Whatever we can do to bring health and wellness into the fold, we've seen it branch out not just from the children, but you have teachers, you have families that are now wanting to take or participate in the movement. So that's one thing. Now that the government is layered with all these incentives and things coming from the federal funding streams that are focused on health and wellness and equity, now everybody wants to jump in. And I had to tell an organization this morning, like, that sounds like mission creeping. Like, y'all don't even do this work. Like, y'all don't even need to be applying for this funding. Like, let somebody else apply for this. And so it's great that everybody wants to get their hands on this stuff. Like, because she asked me, she said, do you think that we should go apply for, like, help centers get refrigeration units to help? I'm like, that's not even your lane. That's not even your work. So it's good stuff. I'm glad that everyone wants to try to get their hands on it, but we do need to make sure that those of us that are doing the work, that money stays within our industry and not allow mission creepers to come into our industry.
That's such
Does
a
that
great
sound
point.
selfish? I don't know. That sounds selfish.
No. I think, that's one thing to definitely keep in mind as this grows larger and larger, is to keep those that are actually dedicated, keep them getting the funding and having the funding and being able to do the work that they want to do, instead of maybe people that want to tick this off as a box. So that's a great point. So thank you for bringing that up. And we have Andrea joining us. Thank you so much for coming in. We just did some introductions. So if you'd like to introduce yourself and tell us how your organization does Farm to ECE, and what your role entails, and how you got started. So lots of questions there, but go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you all. My name is Andrea Lopez. I work in an organization called CentroNia. We're a nonprofit organization, over 35 years of experience, providing high quality bilingual early childhood education in a multicultural environment in Washington, D.C., as well as we have a site in Tacoma Park, Maryland. And within our early childhood services, we have the Food and Wellness Department, which is a wraparound service. And that's my role in the organization as program officer. So my role entails operating the child nutrition program, so CACFP, summer meals program right now. So providing meals for our sites. So we're a sponsor of centers for our 4 sites in DC, 1 site in Maryland. We also have a Nia Central catering company that is specific to ECE centers. So right now we have 7 clients, 8, we brought out 8 last month. So our catering is nutritious, wholesome foods, home cooked meals. We offer breakfast, lunch, and snack, CACFP compliant, to a wide range of centers. They could be small, maybe 25 to 30 children, up to other centers who have 100 children throughout the district. So CACFP programs, child nutrition programs, Nia Central. And we also work with food access programs. We partnered with a Fresh Farm organization that they brought up like these pop-up markets to ECE centers. So we were one of the pilot programs in 2018, and we brought that and are still doing that. Programs with SNAP, WIC eligible families, and bring them fresh fruits and vegetables on a weekly basis. And Farm to ECE, so that is one of our Farm to ECE activities, as well as working with other organizations such as City Blossoms, who in DC, they specialize more in gardening activities. So we include that in our curriculum, as well as have a couple of activities such as family food demos, and in the classrooms as well, connecting them with the school gardens or center gardens that we have, and have the kids try a variety of foods. As what they eat on the menu is what they also do with their activities in the classrooms. I think that is all in a nutshell. And I've been with CentroNia for the past 3.5 years. My background is in nutrition. So in this position, I've learned a lot about community nutrition. And my special interest is, encouraging people to try new foods, all types of foods, real foods, and especially at a young age to develop their palate. So that's a summary of this. Nice to be here too.
Yeah, I love that. That's you guys have a lot going on over there. So right before you came in, we were kind of talking about the growth that we've seen in Farm to ECE since all of you started in this work. Brittany, I'd love to hear from you, being in that government perspective, what kind of growth you've seen.
Yeah, absolutely. I started when we got our very first Farm to ECE grant. So it was really our first step into it. And it was in 2016, and our first grant application, we were pretty much begging people to apply. If they applied, they got a grant. If they were CACFP, if they were in the counties we were serving and they applied, they got a grant. You know, we had maybe 5 people who actually applied and got a grant. And this year, in a pandemic, during a time when childcare providers are understaffed, overworked, stressed out, their job is really, really hard, we received 78 applications. And I was blown away. The momentum that we have seen, I really think it has to do with our ability to bring in stakeholders. We have grown so much with our coalition and just starting to expand as much as we can to bring everyone into Farm to ECE, making sure that we're talking to every person who touches childcare or farm or food system work and bringing them in and hearing from them to make sure that they know what we want to do. We hear what they want to do and start speaking the same language so that each part of our programming has Farm to ECE in it, so that the culture wellness program is trying to encourage local food in their cultural cooking classes, and so that Cooking Matters knows how to reach out to us and bring us in so that we can give quick conversations or farmers market education or to play on to their programming, and the same with our other partners. I really think that that has driven our momentum and has helped us to have a louder voice. I have to agree that it is becoming trendier. You know, we've got Michelle Obama with Mochi and Waffles on Netflix now. Kids are learning about tomatoes and are excited to try them because they saw it on their television show or whatever it might be, but it is becoming more mainstream and people are starting to buy into it. You know, we've been telling them all this time, you know, we have to step away from the instant gratification. We have to teach children to slow down and to be connected to their food and to step away from processed foods and to take the time to cook for children and buy local. And it's starting to catch on. We're seeing the movements in all of the states. We're seeing the success. And I think that that's what's really been driving Colorado. We're starting to speak with a unified voice. And, you know, my mentors, Jennifer Delaporte and Tanya O'Connor, have been doing this work for quite some time. They're who brought the grant to Colorado. And without them, I don't think we would be where we are today, getting all of these partners to help.
Yeah, well, it was great to hear from both of you kind of what this rapid growth, which is great, that we've seen in the last few years, what that means, you know, the positive and the negative, and how we build sustainability into that growth. So thank you. Andrea, I'd love to hear from you what you think your largest contribution to Farm to ECE has been.
Sorry, thank you. I would have to say for CentroNia, you know, Farm to ECE and our department in itself was, and I missed this part, was really the priority of Beatriz Zuluaga, which was my past supervisor. She made it a priority of bringing nutritious meals to Columbia Heights area in Washington, D.C., and make it like an all-around program. So the meals that we serve, you know, used to be more like not ultra processed foods, but processed foods in our menus, and making it, you know, cooking from scratch. So also impacting our cooks every day. And still it's a learning process for them to kind of get produce from the farmers markets or from different farmers, trying to manipulate that to something doable in our menus. So I think for us, it's always caring about our community and working with all of these changes. You know, in our main site, the Columbia Road site, you know, we have all of these ultra fast food places. So again, working with families, immigrant communities, and meeting them halfway. So not only pushing this like healthy lifestyle, right? If we offer these CSA bags with maybe a produce item that they may not even know how to process or never tried it before, not really pushing it, oh, let's do kale chips because that's healthy. But incorporating or being very aware of their cultural standpoint and where they're coming from, Also making traditions something that is making their tradition. So a lot of the families, they grew up having home cooked meals. So why, kind of making awareness of why then are you serving your child a donut or, something that is ultra processed for them in the morning. And also being aware that, okay, they are working parents, but you could still conserve those traditions and exposing those children to the way that they grew up and what they ate. Because we see it as, it's healthier food, but maybe for the parent, that's their only connection, buying them this donut, and it makes their children happy. So kind of, again, meeting them halfway. But it has a lot to do with our community, what we've done in terms of bringing food access availability to them, because it's an area where there's a lot of processed foods, and also exposing the children. There's some children that come to the program when they were little. There's exposed to lentils, pureed lentils when they're babies. So by the time that they're in their pre-K class, even in their after school program, they still remember that taste throughout their time. And we've also had people from our after school program who went through the childcare center, and then they come back and they bring their own children to the center and say, CentroNia has very nutritious meals. And they get excited and also have the children be hands-on with whatever they're making, whatever they're trying. But yes, I'll stop there.
No, it's great to hear just how you've built cultural respect and cultural awareness into your programming, because I feel like that's such a central part of Farm to ECE. We can't really empower communities if we don't respect our communities, right? So thank you for sharing that. Caroline, what do you think your largest contribution to this movement has been?
I think our initiative, I have seen a lot of spread here. I think I also have loved that we've been able to kind of promote the work that folks have been doing for a really long time. And we've had Kellogg funded funding for 5 years, but even before that, there's such great examples of folks that have been doing this work for so long. And I feel like they have been such great advocates for continuing the work and spreading the work, and speaking with their legislators and with the Child Care Commission, and really just making Farm to ECE front row center. And so I'm just grateful for the opportunity to have met those folks and learned from them and been able to kind of spread their word and their message and really highlight those models and spread them throughout the state.
Thank you. Yeah, that is very impactful to be able to build it into the programming like that. So kind of moving on, this question is for everyone. You're all very tuned into this work. So I'd love to hear where you see Farm to ECE moving towards as a whole. What do the next 10 years have in store? Or maybe just the next 1 year. I guess we can't be mind readers, but so whoever would like to go first can take that one.
I could speak about that. So we had a farm stand debacle a couple of years ago. It was just crazy. Caroline's laughing. it was just cuckoo. It was just garbage stuff. And so they interviewed, the city shut our farm stand down. And so they interviewed the city manager, the news media. They interviewed the city manager and they asked her, why are you shutting the farm stand down? What's going on? And so the city manager said, if we allow a farm stand at this center, there could be farm stands everywhere. And so when I tell you that was the craziest, I can't curse because I'm at a childcare center, but when I tell you that was there were memes that were popping up everywhere. This is she's appointed, she's not elected, but this is an appointed government person that's saying there is a fear of farm stands being everywhere if they allow a farm stand to be at our childcare center. So we're talking about, she has no idea what access issues are, transportation issues, how health and education and all that stuff correlate. Boom, like talk about like alienation stuff, like just bozo stuff. So like for me, the next 10 years means that you have, like we can be doing this work all day long, but if you have people that are in power, that are in charge of making decisions for communities that have no clue of what's going on, the next 10 years for me looks like people in charge understanding what it means to take care of communities and how they can better promote stuff. Because if you don't have people supporting communities, when you have federal funding, when you have local funding coming through their desk, they're not going to allocate it in ways that are supportive to this movement if they have an opportunity. But if they understand that our county, is dead last in education, dead last, or first in poor literacy rates, we're first in overweight, first in high comorbidity. I mean, we have all the indicators. We're the first in everything you want to be last in. If they have opportunities to do right by the community, then they'll do better. So next 10 years looks for better informed policymakers and people that are in these positions of power.
Absolutely. And I love the positive outlook and just how important it is that we get policy on board. Brittany.
Yeah, I want to go off of what you just said because I absolutely agree with that. And that's where my head's at with this, is that I want to see less of the higher up, like the state agency creating the grant program, and more of the communities creating the grant programs, which is what we're working for right now. I don't want to have all the money. I want all the money to go to the communities, and I want them to build the programming. Right now, our 9 community-based programs are doing work that I never could have fathomed. They are impacting communities. They are working with children who are separated at the border, and they are tying in mental health to try to mitigate the trauma they've experienced, and they are bringing that to the garden. They're working with autistic children and getting nonverbal children to play with worms and talk to their worm when they haven't spoken that many words in a month. I mean, it's the type of work that I don't say I have to go to work. I say that I get to do this work, and I can't wait to see more money going to the communities and less people saying make a kale salad because it's good for you. And that's where I see this going as well. And I couldn't agree with you more that we need to get the policy in line with that and the funding in line with that, so that the people in the communities can tell us what they need and they can put it out there and meet those needs. Absolutely.
I love all of that. I think to add to that, Andrea, do you want to go first?
No, go.
I have something different, so if you wanted to add on to that.
Oh yeah, I think it's very, sometimes with these grants they build a framework and it's like a one size fits all. I feel like all with diet nutrition, it's like we're steering away from that more individualization, and that goes again with these type of programming of Farm to ECE. It's very different urban place where there might not be the space of garden, and you need to adjust to maybe meet the grant needs or maybe meet those goals of have the children being exposed. So I think it's very good to meet what the community speaks the most of, what is relevant to them, what is sustainable to them in the long run, something, because you want this to be a practice. And I think for us, it's, we developed this palette very young age. So we also want to build these healthier communities. And I guess for us, the Food and Wellness Program has been like about 12 years or so. And it started from our site, kind of looking at our site, what are we doing? And then expanding this catering service to other sites and kind of like meeting them halfway, convincing them that this wholesome, meals would be good for them, and they saw the value. And then now we want to spread out to another community, which is unknown territory for us. So, meeting halfway these other individuals who, not coming in with that mindset of okay, this is what you're going to need, or kind of trying to convince them, if not, maybe what is your goal? And if the goal is to build healthier children at the end of the day, because also developmentally with hunger and all of that. And I guess for Washington, D.C., our last point is the policy aspects. With the CACFP, there was a Healthy Talks Act passed in 2014. So it encourages centers to use local produce at an extra 5 cents. I think that is an advantage sometimes, but again, these centers that we cater to, they would not have been able to do that because they might not have a full kitchen equipment that they can process these foods. So again, on our standpoint with the catering service, we can provide these fresh, nutritious meals to these children, especially to the smaller sites where they're, this is an incentive for them, but it's more work for them to actually process these foods. So that's our hope in CentroNia, expanding to the southeast quadrant of Washington, D.C., where there's only 2 grocery stores there, providing those wholesome meals to those children at those centers. Yes, I'll let Caroline go.
Oh no, I love listening to all that. It's such a great perspective. I think I was going to get like a little more nitty gritty. Like, I feel like there's so many things that we've just tapped the surface. Like programmatically speaking, like thinking about local food procurement, it's like we often say that it's a benefit for farmers, like an increased market for farmers. But then, when we were looking at local food procurement, like, is it really like, we're talking about tablespoons as serving sizes. We're talking about centers that, serve very few amount of children. And, so it definitely benefits the children, of course, but how can we make it a little bit more beneficial and worthwhile for farmers? And so that's something that like we kind of just started looking at different models. So we're really excited to tap more into that. Networking centers, coordinating menus, working with Head Starts a little more, maybe combining farm to school and farm to ECE efforts. All those things are really exciting to us and our team. And some of the folks that we work with throughout the state are, already trying to do some of those really cool methods. So I'm really excited about that. I know folks have also on this call mentioned working with infants and toddlers, and that just gets me really excited. Thinking about like the lentil story that Andrea shared of just getting like, that consistency from birth to preschool, but then also like continuing that into the school cafeteria, and that consistency of like, this is the really delicious, good food that we eat, as opposed to like, okay, that was the early Head Start and her Head Start, but now we're going to like transition to something, completely different, that's unknown. So I think that transition, we could be more supportive with that. So yeah, I also, something else that we've been working with that I'm excited to continue is working with local cooperative extension agents. They've just done a fabulous job in North Carolina of training folks that are new to gardening, folks that are new to cooking fresh food, and they've just gotten right on board to like going into the centers and helping with that gardening piece, recruiting volunteers for folks, and doing some family engagement, some parent training, things like that. So I'm just excited to maybe take some of those success stories and see where we can kind of spread that to, and how else that can look. Because I think there's just such a opportunity for that sustainability and systems that already exist, and making sure that this work continues. So something else we're excited about.
Well, thank you. That was such a rich conversation. I think everyone here brought up some amazing possibilities for the future for us to explore. So I think we're about ready to wrap up. Is there anything else that anyone wanted to add before we head our separate ways?
I'll just add a thank you, and that I think that we should all get together more often and talk about this, because now I'm excited to share resources with Caroline with our cooperative purchasing program this fall. And so we're going to have to make this a monthly thing, I think.
We love that. Thank you, Brittany. Great to hear from y'all. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And have a great rest of your day, everyone.
Thank you
you.
so much.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Bye.
Bye.
Take care.